Hey guys, welcome to Mike It Yourself. Today's video, we're going to be swapping out batteries on an electric Razor scooter. So this is my son's scooter, and these are some sealed lead batteries, and over time they've just gone bad, right? So this happens, Power Wheels, all those kind of cars, or little electric toys, they all do essentially the same thing. The battery will eventually go bad on you, especially if you don't keep them charged. So that's what's happened in this case. I've already opened up the top where you put your feet here, and you can see it's got two 12 volt 7 amp hour batteries. So I just went on Amazon and looked up this code 6DW7, also 12 volt 7 amp hour batteries, and I got these aftermarket batteries here from a company called Neptune Power Products. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap those out, and we'll have to recharge the scooter, and hopefully it'll be all working just fine. With the manufacturing of this, it looks like they just threw some hot glue over the contacts here to try to protect that. So I'll have to pull that glue off and either desolder or cut the power wires so I can go ahead and put on the new batteries. The new batteries came with a new termination that I can solder onto the wires, and I'll have to see what that looks like as far as it being protected. This casing is all plastic, so the chances of something metal touching it are probably slim to none. However, you still don't want to take any chances. You want to cover up those contacts, that way if something were to get in there, something were to move around, it doesn't short anything out, especially with these types of batteries. You don't want anything catching fire or nothing like that. So we'll go ahead and jump right in.
TakeTones.com.
Alright, so we got the batteries out of the scooter. Like I said, they threw some kind of hot glue or something over these contacts just to protect them a little bit. Peels right off, and then it looks like they did put some kind of heat shrink over this. So I'm going to cut that heat shrink away and see if I can desolder it just to kind of maintain the length of the wire. If not, then I'll end up having to clip them and re-strip them to give me my new wire. We'll probably most likely do that anyways, because you do want to start off with a fresh deal. It's just really nice when you don't have to trim away from existing wire, so that way you don't lose any of that length, especially if you don't have any of this gauge wire available. And then on this side you've got a factory connector, so unless you have another one or the pins or anything like that, again, you want to try to maintain as much of the existing wire as possible. So we'll go ahead and do that now, get that removed, and then we'll bring in the new batteries to wire them up.
Tones.com.
Okay, so whenever you guys are doing any kind of soldering or anything, you should always prep your surfaces, because you don't know what's on there. So these being brand new batteries, one would assume that there's nothing on these contacts. However, they may have put some kind of coating or something on it. You just don't know. So what I like to do is I'll just use a little steel brush, or even a brass brush is probably better. Just give it a couple of scrubs, and then wipe it off with some rubbing alcohol, or if you have electronics cleaner, you can use that too. And just to make sure that that's a clean mating surface, and that way you get the best connection that you can while you're soldering. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a little bit of flux, soldering flux, to the contact points. We're going to strip the wire, but before we strip the wire, we'll add in the heat shrink, so that way you're not trying to slide heat shrink over your wire or even the soldered end, because it's going to get a little warm. And then you also want to make sure you use the right solder for the job. There are different types of solder out there, so if you're trying to solder metal pieces together, They have metal solder. If you're doing electrical, then there's electrical solder. So you can do some homework and look that stuff up on your own. There are people who explain that in YouTube videos. So that's not the purpose of this video. But if you want to learn more, I recommend definitely look into it quite a bit. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started with our soldering. Okay, so I've got all the wires soldered back onto the new batteries. Red to positive, black to negative. I already told you about this middle thing. Then I also threw on some heat shrink, just kind of protect the wiring and the contacts as best as I could. So that's done. And you know, give it a little tug, make sure your connections aren't loose. They're not going to come off or anything while you're having a good time on your scooter. And now we just need to put these back in. Okay, so in the process of uninstalling or removing the batteries, there was a circuit breaker that the positive and negative wire was attached to. I had taken a little quick marker and just tagged the positive so I knew which side. Probably not so much a big deal when it comes to a circuit breaker, because essentially once you exceed the amperage that this is for, it'll pop. That's its whole point, is it's to prevent shorting to occur. So in this case, this is 20 amps, so if more than 20 amps were to be drawn through this circuit breaker, it'll pop the button, and in order to fix it, you'd have to reset it. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall this back into it with the appropriate wire in the appropriate place, and then I'll have to get the positions, the batteries in position while I do that, because they were made to kind of reside in there in a certain way. Okay guys, so we're at the point where I like to call it the moment of truth. I'm going to plug in the connector, we'll flip on the power switch, and we should have power to the motor of this scooter. So we'll go ahead and do that. Right now the switch is off, so the switch is located over here. And you want to make sure it is in the off position when you're connecting stuff. That way you don't have an accidental short while you're moving wires around and stuff. And for those of you who are hesitant to do anything with electrical because you're afraid you're going to get shocked and all that stuff, you know, watch a couple of videos, but ultimately, as long as you don't complete the circuit, meaning negative and positive never meet, and negative, keep in mind, ground is ground, so like the ground of this is a ground. As long as those never meet, you're essentially not in really any danger. You just need to be very conscious and aware of what you're doing. So you know, you're relatively safe. You handle AA batteries all the time, is essentially the same thing, just on a little bit bigger scale. And again, you don't typically get shocked. Again, you want to be aware of what your surroundings are. When you're dealing with plastic housing, you're much safer than you are like with metal stuff. So as you move batteries around, you mess with the wires, the rule of thumb is disconnect the battery from whatever the operating tool is. So and if there's two different wires, you want to do negative first and then your positive, and when you reconnect, positive and then negative. Okay, so we're plugged in. We're gonna go and flip this switch on. I've got a red light, that's a good indication, and we're gonna give it a throttle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back together all the way, put that floorboard part on, and charge it up. But this is a done deal. I've got a scooter that's working again. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this and you want to see other videos like this, let me know. Please comment, like, subscribe. Watch my other videos. Again, this isn't really too much of getting into the weeds on how to do very, very specific things. What I hope you all learn is that, you know, by doing some of the things out there that can be done yourself, you can save yourself a couple of bucks and learn important lessons, life lessons that you can pass on to your kids, or even just enjoy for yourself. All right, so talk to y'all later and see you in the next video.